Hello everyone! First of all, thank you to everyone who asked such awesome questions. I really was worried that no one was gonna ask anything, but you guys really came through and asked really awesome, insightful questions. I'm so excited. So the first topic that you guys asked a bunch of questions about was random facts about me, so I'll start there. Hi Sarah, how are you? I do have a cat. Here is a cat montage. I love my cat. I love my cat. I love my cat. He's the best. I love him and he's my best friend. Coffee or tea? I'm definitely going with tea. The main thing I do is acting. I audition and do self-tapes, which leads me into the next really awesome question. Erin. While I was growing up in my childhood home, I relied a lot on my fantasy and imagination. And I think because of tapping into that part of my brain so frequently, it really helped me develop other worlds and character backstories for my characters that I would audition for or maybe like portray. And I find a lot of joy in it because it's just so much fun. I think it utilizes a lot of the things that are very natural to me, like emotional accessibility and stuff like that. Yeah, it just brings me so much joy. What do you do that brings you joy? What artistic thing, if you have something, do you tap into? Ken Wade! Ugh, this is such a hard question. I can never choose one thing, like one movie, one color, one food. I'm the worst with that. It always has to be a group of things I really like. So here's a list of movies I really like. And then here's a list of other movies that I wanted to put in this list, but I didn't have enough space. And here's another list. I like a lot of movies. What's your favorite movie? Let me know. I think anything involving food. I love food. I love trying new food, trying new restaurants, cooking, baking, things like that. And I also really love manga and anime and manhwa. Here's a list of ones I'm reading right now, if anyone wants to know. I like a lot of fantasy stories and stuff, reading books in general. I also really like axe throwing or hatchet throwing. I'm surprisingly really good at it. If there is a zombie apocalypse, you guys have to come to my house because I will protect us. You just have to bring me hatchets so I can throw them. I had to do research because I'm not a car person, and so my answer is the 1996 550 Maranello by Ferrari. It comes in this beautiful color with yellow interior, but if I were to get it, I would get this silver one with this interior instead. Hi Heidi, thank you so much for that generous compliment. I do know who my biological parents are, at least I know their names. And I could do a whole story about my adoption, but basically I had an open adoption. And I know my ancestry because I got Ancestry, like the DNA test, for one of my birthdays. So this is my breakdown. All the rest of the stuff is 1%, so it doesn't really count, but that's the main stuff that I am. So the next topic that you guys were curious about was my childhood and in relation to hoarding. This is such a beautiful question, and you worded it so beautifully when you say, how do I stabilize myself and live with my parent who I love when they do things that I hate? I relied a lot on fantasy and imagination and basically going into my own world. When I was dealing with it, I was a lot younger and I didn't really have the words to express what feelings I was feeling, although you are so... I typed all your questions down, guys, but you were so articulate, like you sound so self-aware. If you do experience those feelings of being claustrophobic, I would recommend leaving the house as often as you can. That's really what I did. I would either be in my fantasy world and watching movies endlessly on my computer and hiding in my room, basically. Or if I felt really uncomfortable, I would leave. I would ask a friend if I could sleep over there. I would always try and go outside, go to a park or something. If you're near an area where you can walk around. My heart goes out to you that you're dealing with this situation right now. Please, anyone in the comments, let's give Ken Wade some advice or just maybe support is even better. But right now, I think focus on taking care of your feelings, doing things that bring you joy, that make you feel good. Miss Tate, hi. I never had any friends come up unannounced. Not that I remember anyway, but I do recall people who were working in the building, like maintenance people. They would sometimes stop by because they had to check on things for every unit, every apartment. And whenever that would happen, they'd knock on the door, ring the doorbell, and we'd have to basically be absolutely silent, not make any noise, pretend that no one's home. I do have a memory of actually bringing a friend of mine to the house. I hope it's a memory and not a dream. We were really young. It must have been like I was 10 or something really young. And both of my parents were at work. And I brought my friend in to look really at my parents' bedroom, because that was really the area that started out really bad, like covered with newspapers and stuff. But I can't remember their reaction. And I can't remember how I felt afterwards. I don't know. I must have been searching for some answer, but I didn't know how to initiate the conversation. Anyway, and no, I did not have anyone to talk to about my living situation growing up. I can say that I maybe missed out on an aspect of childhood, like inviting people over for sleepovers, or I always imagine like building a fort. Like I always wanted to build a fort. That kind of thought process doesn't really benefit me anymore, for me personally, because I really appreciate who I am now. The things that I experienced, even if they were unpleasant going through it when I was younger, they all led me to a certain appreciation and understanding of where I am now. And so I don't really have those thoughts anymore. And about social skills, I definitely struggle with social anxiety. Even now, I've actually filmed this video a couple of times, and I was struggling a lot with speaking and wheezing a little bit. Anyway, I think I've already talked about this in a video called Shame and Connection, something like that. Yeah, I just would get nervous of people coming too close to me or looking at me too closely, but I wouldn't say socially stunted, because there's so much growth and I love witnessing my growth, especially feeling more open with socializing with people and reaching out to people. I'm working on it. So the next topic that you guys wanted to ask questions about was helping a hoarder and hypotheticals. Hi, Ember. I don't think I've talked to you guys about this yet in full length. Right before I posted the first video ever on this YouTube channel, I actually had to clean out my childhood home because it was really looking like a life or death situation with my parent. So I made the executive decision to hire a junk removal company and basically throw out 95% of the home. Through that process and continuing to have a relationship with my parent, which I know some of you guys asked questions about, but we can get into that specifics later on, I have had the best results and conversations with my parent when I have come from a place of love and compassion and understanding, and making sure that I'm grounded in myself and I'm not just being reactive. Because the reason why, for me, this is what I believe, the reason why my parent is struggling and has struggled with this so much is not because they want to create problematic situations or they want to live like this. It's really because of so much suffering and fear. And the more I connect to that, and it's not always easy, but the more that I connect to that, the better chances I have of actually helping. Because to be honest, even though the house was cleaned, my parent was still really mad at me for a long period of time, and they were really very open about talking about that and mourning the things that they lost. So it's not just the things, it's really something deeper than that. I really believe that I saved my parents' life by doing that, but they also allowed me to. They left the house, they stayed at a hotel and let me take care of it. So even though a lot of the heavy lifting, quote unquote, was me, it was the right time for them to be open to that. even if afterwards it was really difficult for them to accept. It was the best time. So timing is everything. Hello? How could you not like cats? How could you not? I've never really taken on the task of individually going through items with also the hoarder present. First and foremost, you probably are gonna upset the hoarder. I think that it is just upsetting for them to have to let go of items because of whatever fear and sadness they have in their life and that they're holding in themselves. The main thing that I would do to make sure that I wouldn't get reactive, really paying attention to how I was feeling and making sure that I'm really trying to stay grounded in myself and be as unreactive as possible. Try to be really grounded and balanced. See, I don't think about these things anymore because it doesn't really serve me for my now, if that makes sense. Again, the main point I want to make is it really would depend on where the person's coming from, who's trying to help, and really understanding that the task isn't just getting rid of all the stuff, although that's very important, especially for the children growing up in that situation. It's more helping someone who's really struggling with an addiction. Hi, Kara Kay. I'll answer your first question. I would have felt great about it, I'm sure. I think it would have really helped me in school a lot of having a clean place to do homework, and it would have helped eating, having a clean refrigerator and stuff. But yeah, I think it would have been great. And also I want to say it would have been an amazing example that my parent would be showing me how to come through something and heal and work on themselves. Like, that's a really great example to set for children, I would think. I maybe would have had some things left over that really were established during my developing years. So maybe, yes, I would still be working through some things, but I'm sure it would have felt really great to have a clean space to work through those things and feel safe through the healing process. And also just going to sleep and going to school. But again, I want to say that I really value the experience of growing up the way that I did, so I wouldn't necessarily change anything now in my past. Yeah. So the next topic that you guys asked about was my relationship with my parent. I could probably make a whole video about this and how I set boundaries for myself, but I'll just jump right in and answer your questions. No, I don't feel responsible to clean up the house anymore. I really did my part when it was necessary for me to take responsibility, but right now it's not my responsibility until the inevitable happens. And my therapist has helped me realize that. In terms of relating to my parent, it's a little complicated because my parent struggles with mood disorders. I can get really discouraged in relating to them when I feel like they've gone back into a really depressive, more triggered place. Tried to stay really grounded and coming from a good place when I reach out for contact with them. But I have to say, I recently took a break from communicating with them, and we're gonna have a conversation this weekend actually to start up the communicating and see how that goes. But it's very much, waves. Sometimes we're talking and then sometimes we're not. And it feels very complex, but overall I love them and I want them to be my parent. I want to feel like they're my parent, and I'm working on it in therapy. That leads me into the next topic that a couple of you asked about, which was therapy. I'll start with Mickey's first. Hi, Mickey. My therapy is not CBT, although I have tried CBT. I did that a little bit in high school when I was struggling with bulimia and self-harm tendencies, and that was quite helpful. My therapy is called AIT, and basically what happens is you clear out trauma from your energy centers, so like your chakras. I know it sounds a little crazy, and it's definitely not for everyone. I have had, I think at this point, 5 therapists now, and this has been the most incredible, transformative, and healing type of therapy, so it works really for me. I've experienced that too. I've had 5 therapists now because I started when I was quite young. The times when it really didn't click for me was if I didn't really feel like I had a strong connection with the therapist, or if the type of therapy wasn't really useful to me. I noticed the most improvement and getting the most out of therapy when I made the really conscious decision of being open about everything and not holding anything back, not worrying about looking like a bad person or a good person. I really came into the sessions with a plan. So if something bothered me that week, because I go to my therapist weekly, I'm going to remember it and bring it up to my therapist and say, look, I'm paying attention to how I feel. I'm feeling this really uncomfortable emotion, and I have enough awareness to realize that this isn't the best way to feel in this situation, but I really need help navigating this feeling and releasing this thought process. That's really how I come into my sessions. And I also come with the expectation of letting something go every time, or at least mitigating some certain intensity or reactivity. I really try and come in with a game plan every time I see her, my therapist. I'd also cut yourself some slack. It's not always natural for us to feel comfortable in situations where we are divulging information and our feelings. Experiment with different therapists and different types of therapy, and also how you can come into a session with a little bit of a plan, a game plan. I hope that's helpful. The next area that we are going to jump into is how I take care of my space and dealing with mess, things like that. I will say I do have a video that I recently posted. It's called How I Take Care of My Space. I'll put like a little thing of it here where I go more in depth about the questions that you guys asked, but briefly. Sarah, yes, I do get overwhelmed by my stuff, but I'm working on it. My therapist has really helped me realize that taking a step back and saying, am I viewing the situation because there's too much stuff, or is it overwhelming because of traumatic experiences from the past? I don't feel guilty about throwing stuff away. I actually get really excited about it. Ken Wade, overall approaching cleaning, I've recently been understanding that certain areas of my home are sacred to me. For example, the bathroom and the kitchen are very sacred. So I try to spread those boundaries of sacredness to my whole house, and it helps me find the energy to clean very consistently. But I talk more about that in my other YouTube videos, so check that out. Hello, Fresh Green. I don't practice minimalism, at least not intentionally. I don't have a lot of like items, but I think I have more items than a typical minimalist would. And for my wardrobe, I don't have a capsule wardrobe, although I definitely have 10 or 15 pieces I wear on rotation that I can mix and match. When I buy clothing, I usually gravitate towards black or white, colors that I can really easily pair with other things, and buy clothing specifically that flatter my body type, that show off parts of my body that I'm comfortable with showing, and 100% comfort over style. What about you, Fresh Green? Do you have any tips? I know Mickey posted her tips, so I have to read them, but help me. Hello. That's a great question. I don't have a specific memory I can draw from to answer this question. I would suggest one of two things. The first is I'm just going to focus on breathing through it, kind of separate my triggered brain and being anxious from, okay, take a moment to step back. This is the actual situation we're viewing. Second of all, I would just leave. I wouldn't go there anymore. I'd avoid it, if I'm being honest. Moving on to questions about my YouTube and how I open up. Sarah, you're coming in with really good questions. I definitely want to keep making videos, mainly because of all of you guys. I feel like I've really found such a special and kind community on YouTube with you all, and I just don't want to let it go. I really feel like we're friends in a certain type of way. Want to make more videos about hoarding and my experience, but I also want to make videos about maybe adoption and just daily life videos and what is it like being a person in this world, like just, stuff like that. And I want to make sure I'm doing it from a place of having fun and wanting to talk to you all. So yeah, I'll definitely keep making videos. Is there anything that you want to see in particular, Sarah? I'd love to know. Let me know. Sometimes I have so many ideas I can't choose one. I get overwhelmed. Kara K, what a great question. I can really relate to feeling anxious after posting something. I really felt like that earlier on in my YouTube journey. What I'll say to that is I've really acknowledged that the part of me that made the decision to film a certain video and talk about a certain topic and post it and felt good about it, like you explained, that's the part of me that's confident and grounded and open and authentic, and that's the place that I want to lead from. What comes up after that, the embarrassment and anxiety, that's an old part of me that came from just wanting to protect me, and I don't need that protection anymore. So I really try and acknowledge that these two feelings and the way that I'm viewing the situation of posting a video are very separate in my brain, and making the active choice to lead from the part of me that's confident and wants to be authentic and open. I've gotten a lot of encouragement from you all in the comments, so that's part of the reason why I keep posting, if I'm being honest. Because how open you all are, it's really allowed me to feel really confident in posting. I have no doubt that you'll find your crowd, and I'm sure people even in this community will go to your videos. Yeah, take time to really think about the topic. What do you want to say? Film the video when you're grounded. Post the video when you're feeling really good. And if the anxiety comes up, try and breathe through it and realize that that may be an outdated perspective, an outdated fear. And if you post it, let us know so we can all check it out. The more I released shame from my experience and realized that there was nothing for me to be embarrassed about, and I really want to be open and authentic in every moment if possible, but I really put a lot of attention and an intention to doing that. It came very natural for me to be open. My parents, throughout my childhood and still now, they are very open about speaking on feelings, so it's very natural for me to talk about my feelings. Not that I do it with everyone. If someone is showing me that they are not open to talking about my feelings or being respectful when talking about my experience, then they're not the right person for me, and that really means that they don't know how to do that for themselves. I think a lot of the desire to stay closed off and protect ourselves is being afraid of being humiliated or shamed or misunderstood. And I think the more that we provide understanding for ourselves and validation and compassion for ourselves, the more we either will attract someone who's very similar, or we will be able to see very clearly when someone is not the right person for us. Trust that it'll happen at the right time. The more that you grow, the more growth will be in your significant other, because you'll attract someone who's even more attuned to themselves, even more able to hold space for you, even more productive and kind and respectful. So yeah, I'm sure it'll change. And last but not least, the wilderness program. Hey Dee, I'm so glad you asked this question. I could probably make a whole video about my experience in a wilderness program. It was very challenging in the beginning. It was very healing to be in nature for such an extended period of time. I'm pretty sure it was 3.5 months. I remember after they had me kind of evaluated by a therapist who was working alongside this wilderness program. And I thought to myself, I'm just gonna smile my way through this. I'm gonna get through this and be so pleasant. Everything's gonna be fine. And I cried myself to sleep. I was so upset and so scared and out of my comfort zone. It felt really powerful to go through an experience where I'm healing with young women my age. And that was also where I learned how to speak about emotions, and everyone was really busting I feels, as they say. Like, I want to bust an I feel. And then everyone in the group would say, bust on. And he would say, I feel like this. I feel like this because this. And in the future, I'll do this. That's how he would talk. It was very helpful. But yeah, I could do a whole video about that. Let me know if you guys are curious about it. Thank you so much for everyone who has asked such amazing questions. I love talking to all of you. Let me know what you guys want to see next, what conversation you're most curious about. And I would love it if you guys all answered these 3 questions. The first one is, where are you from? If you're comfortable, just like overall where you're from. The second one is, what is an animal that you feel like best represents your energy right now? And the third is, what's your favorite comfort food? I'm sending you all so much love. Let me know what you guys want to see next. And I hope to see you all soon. Until next time, bye.